Hello, everyone. I'm Marv Overman from Retire with Respect. Today, I'm excited to show you how to see into your retirement future so that you can avoid going broke in retirement. I want to be talking about using some techniques I learned while working at NASA, specifically running computer simulations. Now, computer simulations are not new. They've been used in many fields for years, and they're used in the financial services field. But typically, they are used by a financial advisor who will be able to run the simulations and show you the end results. What I want to be able to show you is how you can run simulations yourself so that you can keep track on a regular basis what's happening in your finances so that you can actually fulfill your retirement dreams. Now, as far as full disclosure, I am a financial services advisor in one of my businesses. And so you're probably thinking that you already have an advisor who you like, right? So why would you actually want to hire me? Well, actually, you don't need to hire me. And I'm not asking you to. You don't even need to change advisors. You don't need to change where your money is located. It's in a 401k. It's how you want to manage it. What we're doing is just simply getting an unbiased second opinion from the computer simulations that you can share with your advisors or for you to be able to make decisions on your own. So I want to be your technology specialist and let someone else be your advisor. So let's talk a little bit about computer simulations. There's a lot of different thoughts about what they are. So let's kind of clarify what I'm talking about. It's simply a way to find out how something is likely to act or perform based upon a set of things that we can control, along with things that we can't control. And it's best to find the answer to a complex problem with a high level of accuracy before making major design decisions so that we can reduce the number of failures that cost time and money. Now let's take a look at an example from NASA. This is how a simulation of a human flight to Mars is the program that I worked on at NASA before it was canceled. In this example from NASA, we can find out that there are resources like food, water, and air that are needed for humans to fly to Mars. Now, there's a lot of others, but we're just going to talk about use these as an example. The answer needs to be very accurate because you don't want to run out of these resources part way to Mars or on the way back. We will want to know how much resources we have at the beginning as well as how much are being used during the flight. There are some activities in the timeline that can be controlled, such as when the mission starts, major events along the way, and the expected end of the mission. There are also events that can be controlled, such as launching into orbit and landing on Mars. There are some events that can't be controlled, such things as braking unexpectedly, like remember Apollo 13? The answer we get from running simulations could be calculated manually without running a simulation, but there are so many things that are involved, resources being only one thing, and there are so many different activities, events, and variables that it would take a very long time to perform the calculations manually. And then if anything changed, we would have to start calculating again from the beginning. Computer simulations were created to do many more calculations that could be possibly done manually, while doing them much faster and more accurately. They also perform recalculations quicker when we have new information. So computer simulations are valuable to provide insight into successes and reduces the cost and waste of failures. So how does this work in a retirement scenario? Well, it is very similar to traveling to Mars and back, such as there's a starting point, which would be your expected start of retirement or your actual start of retirement if it has already happened when you plan to retire. There are some major events, such as you might have some trips or other costly things that you want to go on a cruise or something. And then you have an expected end to retirement, which is your estimated death. Now, typically we use the age of 90. You have resources that you have to fund your retirement. Savings and income are a couple of examples. And then you use resources that you use, which are your expenses. You have some uncontrollable events, such as a stock market crash, a healthcare crisis, or changes in taxes. There are many more things to consider, but you get the point. In the computer simulations that we run, we start with 6 items in a profile. We start with a description of your family, expenses, savings, income, goals, and net worth. It may be possible to know the amount of each of these items at the start and the amount of changes during the timeline or the amounts that could be estimated. Scenarios, which are a group of items that interact to produce various results. We typically run multiple scenarios to find out which ones are most likely to occur, just like we do in NASA. I'll explain a little bit more in detail as we go along. This is an example of a case study where we ran multiple scenarios. And I will describe this more fully along, but I want to be able to show you that we ran 1,000 simulations or scenarios in this simulation, and it resulted in a 74% chance of having enough money to live to age 90. Now, there are a wide range of them, and the highest probability is that it would 740 of the 1,000 scenarios were the highest probability that would happen. We then could realign some savings and increase so that we can increase that to 96% of chance of having this money. So we'll cover this in more detail, but I just want to show you here, this is an example of how we do some analysis that you will be able to do that will provide you with the ability of saying, what is the probability? How can I adjust things so that they can make them more highly successful? A little bit about me. A few years ago, I was panicking as I thought about all of the financial conditions that we'd reached a retirement age. I'd been working toward this moment for a time, but it wasn't turning out the way I thought it would. I was afraid that we were going to run out of money during our retirement, but it wasn't for lack of trying. I had a career in the military and should have given us a comfortable retirement. Our family had lived in 11 different places in the span of 18 years, and then it happened. When I was near the end of my career, my family was falling apart, and I was afraid my family was going through a catastrophic downward spiral. Family counseling sessions turned into shouting matches, and I had hit a wall in my career because I was stuck in a job that was going to prevent me from being promoted, and I was blocked from fixing it. I became more and more discouraged, so I finally decided to really kind of put my family first, and so I took a buyout from the military instead of waiting a few more years to retire. After all, I thought I have plenty of time to save for retirement, right? Well, you know what they say about good intentions. I jumped from one treadmill to another as I tried to go ahead to reinventing myself over and over again. I eagerly walked into each new job anticipating this is going to be the one, only to feel the pain of being knocked down and losing ground. At one point, a friend asked me to help him set up a nonprofit organization to feed children in the impoverished area of our city. But after he ordered $100,000 worth of food, he walked out, leaving me holding the bag and the debt. I love doing the work, but what do I know about running a food program? Nothing. Needless to say, it didn't end well. So I had inconsistent work, and then the recession of 2009 hit, which caused some major problems. Specifically, I was feeling more and more desperate with each passing year, and then I got a break. A colleague helped me to get a contract working at NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston. It was a 5-year contract, making great money. My desperation turned into excitement. This was the chance to accomplish my dream of paying off the final $30,000 of debt from the nonprofit that I was being held personally accountable for, and also saving enough money for us to enjoy retirement. Things would work out after all. Man, I really felt a lot of relief. Then politics happened. The program to fly people back to the moon and then on to Mars got canceled. I thought I was immune from losing my contract since I was the only veteran-owned subcontractor on the contract that was required by law. But no, the company I was subcontracting through broke the law and the government didn't care. There was over $500,000 left on my contract that was lost when my contract was terminated. Blocked again but not defeated, I continued finding new jobs and consulting contracts. Then the devastating blow came. My wife was sitting at a stop sign when a driver plowed into her broadside into the driver's side door of her car. She was taken to the hospital, into the emergency room, and was released, but over the past 3 years, she has needed a series of surgeries, from broken vertebrae in her neck, multiple shoulder and arm surgeries, dislocated jaw, and broken teeth, just to name a few. So I needed to spend my time in caring for her at varying levels. So was not able to actually work at all anymore. Then I was stuck, and I was never be able to get. I was figured, man, we're just kind of done. So my struggle was every time I made a decision, even though when I thought things were going well, I figured, well, this is how events are going to happen out. And I thought, well, if I make these decisions, I think this is how it's going to work out. But the problem was it didn't seem to always work that way at all. So because I had no visibility into the effects of my decisions. And so my struggle was, well, how do you really make the right decisions? Um, my fear was that if I were to end my life and not get this under control, that I would be losing respect by running out of money in retirement. And one of the great fear was is that I have to go to my daughters and say, you know what, I'm going to have to come and live with you because I just simply can't, can't make it because because I was a goofball and I didn't get it. I didn't save enough. It's great for my 96-year-old mother when she's gone to live with my brother, but not me at this age. So that was my greatest fear. And the wall that I faced was when we typically look at the future, especially with finances, we look at historical information and we hypothesize or we think, well, this is what we think is going to happen into the future based upon historical information. And I understand that no financial advisor wants to be able to say, well, here's what it's going to really happen, because if it doesn't, they could be held liable. But so the wall that I have was that there is just, and that all of us have, is we just don't able to look into the future as well as we want. And then hit me. I remember you remember the tagline, the $6 million man? We have the technology, we can rebuild him. Well, all of a sudden I just realized I have the technology available to me that just might work. I could run computer simulations of different decisions that I make now and see how they might work out in the future. And so just like in NASA, when we do that, so I tried it out, and I actually had the capability of running computer simulations with some technology that I was using. And then I decided, well, if I can do it for myself and help myself out, perhaps I can do it to help other people as well. So I developed a plan, and in my plan, I said I was going to create computer simulations for myself and also teach other people to do that. But I wanted to be able to help a lot of people. Typically in the financial services world, you actually work with someone and you try to convince them to become a client, and then you can run these simulations for them for free. Or you run them for free as an effort to focus to get them to become a client. But what I wanted to be able to do was I wanted to just be able to help people in general. I wanted to be able to have it, whether it's clients or non-clients, and to be able to do that. So I set up my plan and I said, well, what I want to be able to do is be able to just have a consulting fee and charge everybody a consulting fee so that would cover, no one would have to become a client. But if they did become a client, that would be fine. That would be totally their choice, but it would be totally optional. The problem was that my compliance officer nixed the plan. They said that I would have a conflict of interest to double charge clients. What that means is that if I'm charging clients and non-clients a consulting fee, and then clients will also, I charge them a fee for managing their money, then I would end up charging my clients twice. And the compliance officer said that would not work. So I thought, oh, great. Now what can I possibly do? So then it occurred to me, well, I've got multiple businesses. I told you I'm from Retire with Respect, and that's one business. And then I have another business that I use for my financial services. So I separated the businesses out. And so what I said was, now is I can charge a technology fee for people and help anybody and everybody be able to have greater visibility into their retirement. And then if those people who choose to become a client are already clients, then I would be being paid out of a different company. And so there's really two separate scenarios going on. and the client's compliance officer agrees and said that that would be fine. So that's the approach that I'll be taking. So my takeaway was I can feel respected by putting other people first while still guiding my family's future. And what I want to be able to do is look at I can help you get a good handle on your retirement and really focus on doing that while still guiding my family's future, but not have to have you to become a financial services client on me. So let's talk about, I want to cover some things on you, not spending a lot of time, but I want you to be able to see how this will benefit for you. So I want to take a few extra minutes to kind of talk about some things that will help out. We talked about earlier, I mentioned 3 uncontrollable dangers about living your money in retirement, specifically the danger of the stock market crash, healthcare crisis, and changing taxes. And we want to be able to talk about how those we can address those in running a computer simulation. Now, just briefly, I want to recover that right now there is a major issue with new tax rules. We're coming up to the end of 2019, and so the 2017 law was actually passed, but most of the effects are included in your 2019 tax returns. And so that's coming up, and we'll be able to show how we've used these computer simulations to be able to help you figure out what's really best for them. But then most recently, in fact, last week, on December 20th, the president signed the latest financial act, and in it included the 2019 Secure Act. And the Secure Act is the most extensive changes in the retirement law since 2006. He signed it on December, but it actually takes effect in January of 2020. So there are some provisions that we need to get a handle on pretty quickly, and we can put those into the computer simulation as well. So there are some tax changes, and if you haven't received these, I'll make sure that you get a copy of these. But there's just a summary of the tax changes, and then we developed some 20 questions that you can check on to make sure that you, in fact, have able to figure out which parts of the provisions of the 2017 law are applicable to you and which parts are not, and how best to be able to do that. And it can also become a checklist for you to use. And then we have a summary of the 2019 Secure Act, which is actually a summary written by the United States House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee, so that you can be able to find out exactly what is your how is that going to fit you, how does it benefit you, and we'd be able to put that in the computer simulation so that you'd be able to get all of this stuff straightened out as quickly as you can, in order to be able to file your 2019 taxes. So what's your story? The new tax laws and changing economies. You want to make the right decisions without affecting your future, and you're not alone. So we want to be able to get visibility or see into your possible future by running simulations to see, well, if I make these choices, here's what's happened. If I make some other choices, here's some other possibilities that could happen. And that way you can allay any fears of the unknown future. Now, there's 3 benefits of the tax simulations. 1, you can calculate current and future tax estimates, and I'll show you that. You can literally look at it and say, this is what it's going to happen in 2019, but it's also going to happen, what's going to happen possibly in 2025. And I say 2025 because the current law that was passed in 2017 says that all of the individual provisions are going to go away in 2025 unless Congress decides to extend them. So if Congress just chooses to ignore it and do nothing, then all of a sudden all of the old tax laws and tax rules fall back, in tax brackets, they all fall back, and you end up paying more money. Well, we can simulate that, and we can say, this is what, if that did happen, here's the effects, and if you can make some changes now to help solve some problems there. You can display the annual tax calculation and actually see a tax form 1040 form for current and future years, and you can perform the what-if scenarios for your tax estimates. So there are 3 secrets that we want to cover on simulations. One of them is a simulation magic, how to unlock the mystique of running simulations by non-techies, because I want to teach you how you can run them. For vision, how do you see into your future by running simulations? And then for wealth, how to efficiently manage the distribution of your money to maximize wealth by running simulations. So let's take a look at the first secret. Simulations. I started working with them in 1989, but at that time you needed to have computer engineers. But as it all changed when I started consulting at NASA, because as things became over the years, the technology became much more easily to use, and also computers became a lot faster and smaller. So a smaller laptop now has more power than what a big computer had back then. So now the technology is available. And I just realized that, if you're just doing simulation, you just take it one step at a time and let the technology do all of the work. So you're probably thinking you're not techie enough, right? Well, actually, you won't build a simulation. Well, what we're going to show you is you're just going to put your information in and you're going to let the computer do the work. So a profile is what we use. As I mentioned before, we're going to be using things like what is your family like? How much income do you have? How much savings do you have? What are your expenses going to be? What's your net worth? And so we'll simply put in a profile where you'll enter the information and you'll be able to maintain that information. And then you can run the simulations and be able to see how things are happening. We can put information so that it automatically updates, or will periodically update the information, so that you will have a continuous way of saying, as life is evolving, this is how your future looks like. You're probably thinking you might not have all the information that is needed, right? Well, actually, you use the information that you have and add more later if needed. So now I've shown you how you can unlock the mystique of running a simulation by non-techies. It's kind of an awesome thing, because when you think about it, it's something that you can do, and you don't have to wait around for me, although I will be there for you if you need help. So the next secret is simulation visions, how to see into your future by running simulations. I'm going to show you a couple of different scenarios. This is the demographic of the first scenario. They were current people that are married, Steve and Sarah. They're both age 64, life expectancy of age 90, and they're planning to retire at age 67. They have salaries of $110,000 and $75,000, and they plan to have monthly expenses in retirement of $9,000. And you can see what their investments are. They have $938,000 in qualified funds and $81,000 in non-qualified. So when you run the simulation of 1,000 scenarios, they found, and this is where the one I showed you earlier, that there are 740 scenarios that had the highest probability or chance of having enough money to live towards retirement. Now you can see that this is a graph, and you can see this darker line here where there's some darker lines in the middle. That's where the 740 scenarios are. And you can see that they run along and that they stay pretty level near the end. And at the end, they dip down. And that's because in the scenario, we show that the last 3 years, there is a high probability that we may need some long-term care. And that's not factored into their budget as yet. So the worst case is so this is the normal. Now you can see it might be hard to see, but you can see there's some some lines that end up right about in age 79. And so the worst case scenario is that you could run out of money. It actually runs out of money at around age 79. There were a few scenarios that way. And then you can see some up here in the top that's very high. Well, that tells you that best case scenario. I mean, there are some scenarios where you just kind of launch out in the stratosphere. But the highest probability is a 74% chance. Well, what we wanted to do with them is say, well, how can we increase the probability? So just as an example, we said, well, if you have all of this funds in money, what about if we took 30% of your funds and put that into a guaranteed income account that was contractually guaranteed to pay you 7% return for 10 years? Now, if you look at the rule of 72, the rule of 72 says if you take the percentage of that you're going to be earning and you divide it into the 72, it tells you how many years it takes to double your money. Well, 7% of 7% interest into 72 says at 10 years. So if we put $300,000, for example, into a third of the money into a this contract, then it'd be in the end of 10 years, that is $600,000. And so we do that so that we can leave that money for the back end of retirement and be able to also then use the other money going up until for the next 10 years. And you can see that increased the probability from 74% to 85%. So that takes care of the stock market. Now, we also mentioned that at the end of life, we account for about 3 years where there is a higher probability of needing long-term care. And so what we did here was we increased the probability by realigning funds into a self-funded long-term care savings account. A compounds investment with continued access to the funds. Now, what that means is that this particular example, we were using a vehicle that you could put $100,000 into a long-term care event, and you would be able to then, it would be set up to where if you used it, you could it would compound up to about $275,000 to $300,000 of available over time when you would need it at the end of life. Now, if you wanted to be able to obviously use that money, you would simply use that money to pay for long-term care or for major health issues along the way. But let's say you chose that you passed away before you used it. Well, the money is not lost because it's set up to work like a life insurance policy where it would then be paid out to your beneficiaries. But then there's a third scenario that says, well, what about if we wanted to just take the money back out? We don't think we're going to need it. Well, you can simply draw the money back out. You get your $100,000 back out. You don't lose any money. You lost a little bit of what the gain would be, but you could be able to. So you're self-funding it. So the beauty of it is you don't have to end up spending a lot of money on insurance premiums and end up never getting any of that money back. But you can see that it increased the probability from 74%, from 85% up to 96% of being able to fulfill your dreams in retirement. So let's take another scenario to be able to show you a little bit of a couple of different things. Mike and Amanda are married. They're younger. Their ages 46 and 44 with a life expectancy of 90. And they plan to retire at age 65. And this is their salaries, $350,000 and $100,000. And they plan to have monthly expenses in retirement of $10,000 a month. And they have $500,000 qualified and $500,000 unqualified. Now, in the scenarios, we will show this is what they have now, but we will look at also what they will have when they turn age 65. The savings, now what I want to do here is show you a different strategy that you could run a simulation on. Instead of, you can see their current strategy is they have all of their $70,000 in a taxable account. Well, if you were to change that and show that you had $7,000 into an HSA or health savings account, you put $19,000 into a pre-tax 401k, you put in also fund a Roth with $6,000, a Mega Roth with $30,000, and then gives you a taxable income of $6,000. Well, if you were to distribute that money out in different ways, then there are some tax ways that will benefit you from a tax perspective. What it does from a tax perspective is it basically increases your probability of success from 69% to 77% simply because you're going to be paying a whole lot less in taxes. If you look at how that would show in a graph, this top part here where it on the left side where this is the money, the taxes that they're paying or the amount of income that they have from their job. When they retire at age 65, this is where it drops down and now they pay much less income until it starts to go up again. And that's when they start taking the required minimum distributions for all of their the money that they have invested. And in this case, by using the strategy of separating them and funding the different accounts rather than all in one, they saved the total taxes of over $800,000 just in tax savings by following that strategy. So you're probably thinking, well, I don't have much savings for retirement, so it's really not going to help me, right? Well, actually having less amount of savings puts you at greater risk of going broke. So wouldn't it be great if we could be able to find some ways to how you can avoid going broke by running some simulations? We can't invent money, but there's ways that we can put money to where you can gain money, like getting 7% rate of return guaranteed for 10 years. So now I've shown you how you can see running into future simulations. It's kind of like seeing through the looking glass into your retirement. I think that's pretty great, don't you? Well, the third secret is the simulations, how to effectively manage the distribution of your money to maximize wealth. Now, I've showed you a little bit of some of this now, but so far, but I'll show you a little bit more, and then we'll move on. So when and how is the best way to use money in retirement is called an efficient tax distribution. And you hear the term thing, it's called, distribution is how you are using your money in retirement. So the more you efficiently distribute money can be significantly influenced by your tax strategy. Now, this is an example here, and this is really going back to the one example that we just talked about, and these are the various tax brackets. This is the tax bracket that the couple was in when they were still working, and then when they retired, they became, the first retirement came at age 65, and then Amanda was 2 years older, so they're younger, so she waited, and then she retired at age 65. But you can see down here in the middle this is the time period from the end of retirement at age 65 until age 70. Now that's a very, very low tax bracket. Here is where the RMD, or the required minimum distribution, starts, and also saying they delayed taking Social Security to age 70. Well, this actually here, this big orange part, is where it shows you this is the extra taxable income that was really compounded later on in life. So as they are growing older and older, they have a higher and higher tax bracket, so therefore they're having to pay a lot more in taxes. So if we took at it a quick little strategy here, let's say you can see the light blue, the blue here. When they're in a low income strategy here, if we took money that was already in the tax deferred and we moved it into like a Roth IRA, we went ahead and we paid the taxes, but we paid the taxes when it was at a very low tax bracket. Therefore, they're not paying as much, and therefore there's not as much money that has to be required to be pulled out under required minimum distributions as they go later on in life. And so therefore they end up not paying taxes on as much. In fact, in this example, and this is an actual calculation, was they saved over $1 million in taxes simply because the compounding effect of paying more and more taxes and building upon it later on in life when you're in a higher tax bracket. So that's some example of how we can run simulations, and you can look at these various options now so that when they turn 65, they can make a decision. When do I take Social Security? When do I pay down or actually take money out of a tax deferred account? And how can I move the money around so that it benefits me long term going into the future? Now, one of the provisions for the 2019 Secure Act that I want to alert you to, and it's kind of one under the radar, and it deals with an inherited IRA. Now, an inherited IRA is, let's say I have an IRA, and of course, if I give it to my wife, that's called a spousal distribution. But let's say if I want to give that to my children, well, they're in their mid-40s, and so if I were to give them money in their mid-40s, then the current law says that they can stretch it out, and they don't have to, the required minimum distributions that they have to pay, since they still have to pay it. See, the government's one goal is you've got to pay for your taxes no matter what. So if they were to stretch it out, then the current law says that they can take their current age, and the distribution is calculated to age 84. And so that's the solid line. This is how much money would be available in the solid line if they did that. But in the Secure Act of 2019, Congress did away with that. They said that when you send money to your children, all of the money, the taxes have to be paid on it within 10 years. So if now what that means is that my children would end up be paying more per year. It puts them in a much higher tax bracket, but it also means that more money is taken out quicker, and therefore it does not allow to stay on and compound longer. And so you actually can run out of money. So we can calculate these in a simulation, and you can see how that would be able to work. But I wanted to alert you to this capability or this problem so that we can plan for it. I've told you that we can show some 1090, some 1040s calculated. You see right here, there is a thing that says 2020. We just simply drop that down and it will automatically show you. So you can see this is exactly what your changes are, what your taxes should be. Now, if you want to make some changes and say, well, if I want to be able to pay less in taxes, you can do some hypotheticals or some what if analysis and say, well, if I change things around, you can see what does it happen in the future, but what changes will it affect on my current taxes? And you can say, do I end up paying more taxes, less taxes? Do I end up paying less taxes now and more in the future? Or all of those various scenarios, you have that capability of what's really best and what's best. So now I've shown you how you can really effectively manage the distribution of your money to maximize your wealth by running simulations. And for me, I think that's pretty reassuring, don't you? So do you think that having this insight of running simulations from your own personal retirement simulator would work for you? Let me ask you a question. How many of you are intrigued by what we've just been talking about? How many of you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, because we've covered so much, like drinking through a fire hose, right? Well, if it's okay for you, I want to spend just a very few minutes kind of going over a special offer I've created to help you implement your personalized retirement simulator so that you can see into your retirement future. You might be thinking that you can't get started with this because you don't know enough about your retirement needs. Well, here's why that's a mistake that will hold you back from success. This system actually helps you find out what are your greatest retirement needs, because and helps you find what's the best solution, because it can actually show you where some holes are or how things are not going to work out well. And so therefore it helps you define your needs. In your retirement, your personalized retirement simulator has all of these capabilities. It has a balance sheet, where you put a profile, where you put in all your information. This balance sheet gives you a continuous balance sheet. To any time you go in and look at it, you can see exactly how much money you have available, what are your expenses, and what is your excesses. It gives you retirement score that we've been showing about in a retirement plan. And as long as your retirement taxes and there's several other things in here, but this is just a few of them. It can also deals with what is your estate. You can deal with student loans. You can deal with all kinds of loans. So it really helps you get a full picture of all the aspects of your retirement and how do you manage to do that. Be able to anticipate the future, adjust for changes, plan your retirement. What is your probability score, and actually track your finances on an ongoing basis. And actually plan them. You don't have to worry about it. Reduces your worry about the unknown. And it kind of reduces about how we always reacting to change. If the stock market crashes and all of a sudden people are reacting and stuff, well, if you can anticipate that and we can actually plan for it, then we actually have shown that we can actually help keeping that from having huge adverse reactions. So you can see all these, what you can get rid of and the benefits that is for you. Well, a retirement simulator, if you were to buy it yourself, you would be paying $1,500 per year. So if you figure for a year, if you have a typical 20-year retirement, or roughly, you would be paying over the full retirement years about $30,000 just to get the retirement simulator. So that's what the value is of what you're getting. So you're probably thinking this is really too complex. But I just want to remind you that your personalized retirement simulator does all the complex work. You're just simply putting in the information and doing different scenarios. So also what I want to be able to do, I want to be able to make sure that you really understand how to use it. So we'll be conducting a free 4-week masterclass where we'll be covering all the aspects of how are we going to. In fact, what we're going to have is a 5-day quick start course where you will spend about 15 to 20 minutes per day basically learning some very basics. How do you put in, and we will walk through each of these 5 areas of your profile so you can collect the information that you have and figure out what it is, or make estimates on things that you don't have information about. And then we'll spend a week on each of the simulations, one of them dealing with the various things. How can I create more income, or how can I be able to create greater wealth? We'll look at some health scenarios. How do I deal with insurances? How do I deal with Medicare? How do I deal with long-term care? And then we'll also deal with tax scenarios, and we'll do those take a week apart, because that's when we'll be looking at various alternatives, and that way you don't spend a lot of time doing it. It's where it's going to take a lot of time learning it, and you can spend most of your time working on how to do it. Well, the value of the 4-week masterclass is $1,297. So your total value so far is $2,797. So you're probably thinking that you could, sorry about the lack of L, never do anything like this, right? Well, actually, you're not alone. And I'll make sure that your personalized retirement simulator is set up correctly, because I will give you a personal 30-minute session with me, and we will sit down and I'll answer all of your questions that you have. And that we will actually make sure that everything is set up correctly. And so that, and I do this because, I've been in computers a long time. In fact, longer than I probably care to think about. But it seems like you get into a new program and it says, oh yeah, it's a piece of cake, it looks like a sample. But then you get into details like, well, what do I put in this value here? Or what do I do here? So I want to be able to just make sure that you don't have to just guess on your own, and that you're not just left to your own and you got to figure it out. And I give you this course but then you feel you have to figure it out. I'll sit down with you for 30 minutes and we'll just figure it all out. That's about a value of about $197. So that's your total value is $2,994. You're probably thinking the economy is too unpredictable, right? Well, actually, the system adjusts your retirement plans based on the changes in the economy, so that you are basically continually creating, or automatically creates a dynamic retirement plan. By dynamic, I mean that as situation changes and amounts change, whether they're automatically loaded into the calculators or whether you put them in, it will automatically produce a new different plan for you. So you don't have to keep paying for a new plan each time. So you don't have to worry about the unknown. Prepare for changes. It gives you visibility. You can calculate your success. But the key is you eliminate paying for a retirement planner. Now, when I went out and looked at it, a retirement planner costs about $6,000 to create a retirement plan. And then you have annual updates, but let's just figure the $6,000. So you won't have to pay for that. So your total value is $8,994. So you're probably thinking taxes are too variable, right? I mean, we've already got 2 major tax law changes affecting simultaneously right now in your 2019 taxes. Your what-if scenarios are going to help predict, and I've shown you that already. Well, that basically helps you to figure out what is your required minimum distribution, and what is the best source to pay. Now, let me give you a quick hint here. The Internal Revenue Service doesn't care where you get the money from. Let's say you have multiple tax-deferred accounts. You got a 401k, and then you've changed jobs, and so you already rolled some over into an IRA, or you have multiple 401ks. What we will do in the simulation is we will calculate what is your requirement distribution for all of them, and then we can help decide, well, if you take all of the money out of one account and let the others go, then you won't have to be able to, then that will help you out long term for the best, and it will be able to estimate your taxes for all of retirement. And so that's the beauty of being able to do that, because that way you know how it's all fitting. But the other is that you eliminate paying for a tax planner. Now, when I've done that, and having a planner come up with a tax strategy and annual updates is about a $2,000 value. So your total value is $10,994. So you're probably thinking retirement is a long time, and there's always a lot of changes in retirement, right? And so, Marv, you're going to help me out up at the beginning, but then, what about later on? Well, actually, our team's going to stay connected with you. In fact, we are going to give you in it for the long term. We have the initial training that we've talked about, where we're going to look on your basic situation, but that we're going to be able to be available where you can call us, or we will have scheduled periodic reviews where my team will go through and sit down with you and we'll walk through everything that's going on. As life changes for you, you can give us a call. We'll be able to walk you through and help things and coordinate the multiple perspectives and be able to do that. So we want to do that, and we're here for you for the long term. Now I really can't put a value on that one, so I'm just not going to be able to I'm just not going to make up numbers. So your total value is $10,994, but that's an unending personal consulting from our team, not necessarily from me, but from our team. So you're probably thinking you don't need something like this, right? Well, actually, I think I've kind of shown you there are many factors that you can't control, like the stock market crash, healthcare crisis, taxes and stuff, and so it really is comforting to know that you can have your own personalized retirement simulator to include scenarios just like these will actually happen. Now, obviously, I'm not going to charge you $10,994, but if I did charge you that as a one-time fee for over 20 years of support, if all it did was help you avoid going broke in retirement, would it be worth it? Like I mentioned, if you were to get the simulator yourself, you would end up paying $30,000 to pay for the simulator. So if I charge you $10,000 or $11,000, that would be a pretty good bargain. But all this system did was to collect, automatically update, evaluate, calculate, and manage your retirement finances. Would it be worth $1,500 a year to you? If all the system did was simulate finances for your entire retirement, create a retirement plan, and update it each year for 20 years, would it be worth a one-time fee of the $6,000 you would pay for a retirement plan? If all it did was estimate your taxes and for each year for the next 20 years, would it be worth a one-time fee of $2,000 for you? So I had two choices. I could go cheap and sell it as many as possible without being able to give you additional value, but just kind of leave you all on your own. Or I could go slightly higher and dedicate more time and energy and resources to help you be more successful. So if you had your retirement simulator today and taking the guesswork out of your finances, what would it be worth to you? You've already seen that it's worth $10,994. And if I were to charge you $1,100, which is 10% investment, that's typically charged, it's a great deal. But because I want to help as many people as possible avoid going broke in retirement and still stack on some value, I'm going to give you a special offer of you get immediate access to it of a one-time fee of $497. So all you have to do here is fill out the information in the form and click on the button, and you would have it. You have instant access to it immediately. There's no other fees that you will charge. I will not charge you another fee for the rest of your life, just one fee of $497. So you've got two choices. You can do nothing. If you do nothing with all of the information we've talked about, what do you get? Nothing. Or you can choose to take a leap of faith, just test it out and get visibility in your retirement future and make the best decisions. So simply fill out the information in the form and click on the button. But I'll even give you a guarantee. I'm so confident that you will be totally satisfied with your personalized retirement simulator and your partnership with me. But if you're not totally satisfied, I will refund the total amount of money, the whole $497. All I ask is that you attend the 4-week masterclass. If at the end of that time, in the 30-minute session with me, you say, Marv, it's not worth it, then fine, I'll give you the $497 back. No questions asked. The real question is it worth the gamble of a few minutes of your time to check this out? Even if it does only half of what I've claimed today, it will pay for itself as soon as you calculate your taxes for your 2019 taxes this year. You will already save more than $497. I'm confident of that. So this is a summary of what you're going to get. The retirement simulator, the 4-week masterclass, the 30-minute personal training session with me, be able to do retirement planning and annual updates every year. It's actually, you can do it on a continuous update basis, tax strategies and a continuous update basis, and an unending personal consulting where you'll be able to call my team and we'll be able to work through and we'll schedule periodic time with you with a total value of $10,994. So act today. We're going to be starting the masterclass right after the first of the year. But I will also work with you. We may start it after Christmas here. We'll see. Now is the time to get ready for the end of your tax preparation, which most of the if we start by the first of the year, we'll still have plenty of time to get your taxes done. Um, so just simply fill out the information on the form and go. So you're going to get started. To get started now, I'll be happy to. I'm looking forward to working with you. I'm looking forward to helping you and becoming a very valuable resource. So I just love helping people. And with this strategy, I can help you. Whether you begin, just remind you, I'm not. Nobody has to become a client. If you choose and you want me to help you with that, that's fine. Otherwise, we'll just work this on doing your retirement simulator, and I'll be your retirement technology specialist. So you have a blessed day. Take care.